I guess since I've been playing all three specs since the 8.0 launch, I will be talking about Holy next. So, with one of my recent videos, somebody asked if I could do an overview of talents and legendaries. So, I'm going to do that now. Hopefully, this group takes a little longer to fill up. Otherwise, I will continue afterwards. But anyways, it definitely feels a little weird now that you're able to buy legendaries that you want. So I do have enough for another one, I guess. And I have been really tempted to get the legendary cloak, which allows you to revive after Spirit of Redemption every 10 minutes. But I guess the issue with that is like I feel like we're so squishy that I don't want to drop Pride as, or I'm afraid to drop Pride as. Although it's so hard to think about. Actually, I think for specific dungeons, maybe having the cloak would be really nice. Maybe I should try it for this one actually. I guess a cloak like this I would only use if I'm really scared of my failures. So something like Court of Stars makes me nervous for the last boss. Second boss usually isn't that bad if people are really good about DPS and just killing the imps quickly. So generally, up until now, I have not had the cloak, so I have been using Prydaz and Velens. Velens is a trinket I'm probably never gonna take off. I will probably switch between Prydaz and this cloak. Prydaz, I guess I will most likely take for bosses that have really hard hitting mechanics where I will need that shield for sure. Although it's a little confusing to be certain about that because the cloak is kind of like a I am most likely going to die from this mechanic, so it would be nice to have this for that. But another thing is you can't guarantee that you will have the res up if you died on trash or something before the pull happened for the boss. So it's kind of hard to plan for the cloak. Pride as all around is very good, so I don't know. Maybe it'll just be a judgment call later on. My gear overall, like, not that great. So each individual piece is kind of weird. So I don't really know if it's worthwhile to go through it because, I took a long break. So I'm kind of playing catch up right now. And my gear is definitely not comparable to a lot of other active players. So I'm not going to go into detail about this. Let's talk about talents. For some reason, I was feeling that Holy would be very different on patch 8.0, and I don't know why I had that idea because it really is not that different. It generally plays pretty much the same, and it still has the same weaknesses. So yesterday I was doing Blackwood Cold, and on the last boss, it was really frustrating because it's a fortified week. It was a 21 key, and I had so many abilities that I was using to try to survive Shadow Bolt Volley before you get the buff where it doesn't just one shot you anymore. And I was still dying. And it was really frustrating because there was nothing else I could possibly do except get this talent, which I don't even know is worth taking because I'm not even certain this talent would have saved me. So I will include clips of what was happening and the multiple attempts that we were doing, but it was just really confusing to me because I didn't know why I was living sometimes and why I was dying other times. And I was popping the same cooldowns every time to try to live. So, to give you an idea, I had Pride As on, I switched to a Stam Flask, and I was using Desperate Prayer, and I was using Guardian Spirit, and I was using a Potion of Prolonged Power. I don't think there is anything else I could have possibly done to try to survive it. And I was still dying, I'd say, more than 50% of the time to Shadow Bolt Volley. So that pissed me off a lot because our defensive cooldowns are pretty shit, especially because Guardian Spirit doesn't even save you if the damage is massive. So for certain bosses, like even first boss of Blackwood Cold, that AoE, sometimes I still die to that garbage because that damage is considered massive and Guardian Spirit won't save you. Whoa. Oh, wow, see? Holy priests fucking suck. Are you serious? I used GS and Desperate Prayer on myself. Still fucking died.
Just wait till my Varus comes, guys. Oh, I don't have, dude. I
Yeah.
don't have. I need to heal.
You don't have what? Does anyone know, like, specifically when he's about to do it? I have, like, three buttons to press.
Yeah,
Five
5 seconds.
Alright. Okay.
2 seconds. Yeah.
I'm ready. I'm ready. I still fucking die.
Me too.
This is pathetic. Soon?
3 seconds.
3 seconds right now. Going off one.
Yep, I have all my shit up. Oh! What the fuck? Okay. We have hope. Wait, no. Kill the swarm, kill the swarm! No, don't let me die, don't let me die! No, I'm gonna die. Ah, fuck, sorry. Say it when it's like 3 seconds left before cast.
I'll tell you, the time I tell you is when he's gonna start casting it.
No, do it like 3 seconds before you cast it.
Yeah, 7 seconds.
Okay,
3 seconds.
okay. My stuff is up. Oh, yeah, it's so random, I don't understand.
5 seconds.
Okay.
3, 2.
Perfect. So I think Pride has
Stainy's out on you. It's on you.
Oh, yeah. So, I just really wish that they gave us better cooldowns. Sometimes I honestly do truly feel that that might be a factor that really prevents Holy Priests from doing very well because on my Druid, Bear form by itself is really strong already. And then I have Bark Skin, then I have Iron Bark, and I just have a ton of shit that I could use. So many different cooldowns, diverse, and they have low cooldowns as well. I just wanted to include that tidbit because that has been a problem with Holy Priest, I feel, for a while, and they haven't really given us anything to make up for it. So I am not very confident about how well we can do at super high keys. I mean, people still manage, but I'm just hoping they add something or give us something better. But okay, on to the talents. So for some of the lower keys earlier in the week, like under 20, I was using Trail of Light, which I usually don't mind. I think it's pretty good because, you actually cast Flash Heal quite a bit. It's kind of unlikely that you'll have the time to cast Heal that often, so Flash will be your main source of healing generally, and replicating 40% of it on your previous target is pretty good. Unfortunately, our mana kind of sucks, and you will find yourself going out of mana very often. So I feel like Enlightenment is kind of mandatory for higher keys. I don't like the fact that our mana sucks ass and that we need a talent to make up for it, but this one, never. I remember taking this way back when, but it's definitely not worth it. Renew as an instant is fine to cast by itself. You don't need your single target healing to refresh it. So the next row, Angelic Feather, mobility is always really good to take. So I've talked about this a lot. Mobility is excellent. Perseverance, as I mentioned earlier, I would only consider taking it because I'm desperate to try to survive a boss ability. And 10%, I'm not really sure that will even save you, honestly. Angel's Mercy, I haven't tried it out, but I honestly don't think Desperate Prayer is that great. I mean, I think it obviously it's pretty decent, but I don't think I would give up mobility for a talent like this. The next row, I honestly don't think has any competition because Guardian Spirit, this talent it just feels really great because 60 seconds, even though they changed it from 90 to 60, it makes a big difference. 60 is pretty low. And the funny thing about this talent is that whenever I use Guardian Spirit, I don't want it to sacrifice. When you use it, you want it to be like something to save them potentially, but most of the time you don't want it to ever go off. Otherwise, it'll be 3 minutes, right? So you like having that safety net usually, and having it go 3 minutes is pretty long, but aside from that, I do think this is the best talent for this row. For the 60 row, I have talked about how Censure doesn't really feel that useful because a lot of other classes already have stuns or AoE stuns. So having an additional stun doesn't really feel that great because it will be on DR. Plus, honestly, half the time, if you really wanted to, you could use Chastise as a really minor interrupt because it will incapacitate and just break on damage, and it will interrupt their casting, which is good enough, I think. Something like Shining Force could possibly be used for Sanguine, but I don't like displacing mobs. I think the knockback from Shining Force can be pretty far, so I don't think I would take it, and I would just rely on, DKs gripping it out or MCing the mob out or something. I just think this can be a little risky because you can't always control how far they fly and stuff like that. So Psychic Voice would be the one I take for this row. For this row, I actually have not tried Binding Heal in a really long time, so maybe it's a lot better than I think, but I actually just really like Surge of Light procs because it allows you another cast that you can use that is an instant, and then using that instant cast will also lower your Serenity cooldown. So I just think it's a great talent. It also can proc off of smites, so if you have free globals that you're able to smite, it's really great when it procs off of that. Circle of Healing, it's just, the heal is just so small. 1446, that's like half of a flash heal, and sometimes a flash heal feels small to me. So Circle of Healing with a 12-second cooldown, that's just so high for a crappy instant AoE heal. So I would take Surge of Light. This row, actually, I have actually mostly been using Benediction, but I am considering trying to use Halo. The thing about Divine Star, I normally would like it, but it's so positional. I don't know if you'll be able to get the best out of it every single time. I think the best use of this is to throw it in melee. That way, melee are generally already stacked, and it could hit the tank as well, but I guess if it hits them twice, then it will be around like 1500 healing on a 15-second cooldown. I don't know, it doesn't feel that great. Although this is much longer cooldown, but this row is just really wonky to me, admittedly. Benediction is probably more useful for raiding than the rest of these. Although I can't say for sure, I haven't raided as holy in a really long time. It's probably more useful than Benediction in a 5-man setting because tossing a renew on someone usually isn't that bad, and it's usually a habit of mine to do it anyways, so not having this do it for me isn't a big deal. So having the extra heal from Halo could be nice. Row 100 can be challenging for me to be confident about because I don't think I would ever take Light of the Naru over these other two. But so Apotheosis, shorter cooldown, shorter duration, and I loved it before 8.0. But the thing is, Holy Word Salvation feels very powerful, right? And right now, I'm having the issue where it's so powerful in my mind that I'm not even using it that much. Some dungeons, I only use it once, and I don't think that's good because I really honestly want to test out how short of a cooldown it can actually be if you are using holy words pretty often. And honestly, sometimes if you're like running around the dungeon, you could try to just use these cooldowns. I mean, the risk of that is if you end up needing them for the next pull and it's still, a couple seconds on cooldown because you used it running to try to lower this. But I'm not really certain yet whether this has a place in dungeons. I mean, I picked it up for last boss in Cathedral, and it worked pretty well. The thing about Apotheosis for an AoE fight like Cathedral, the last boss, is that honestly, I personally think that Apotheosis probably works best for Serenity compared to Sanctify. For AoE heals that you need, I don't really know if Apotheosis would be the best choice because even if you're spamming Prayer of Healing doesn't actually heal for that much, and Sanctify won't likely heal multiple people, especially for that fight where everyone is spread out attacking images. So at most, you might get like 2 people in your Sanctify when ideally you would like way more. So Holy Word Salvation just felt like a much better choice for something like that, where everyone was more spread. I think most of the time I will most likely take Apotheosis, but I really would like to try this out more and see if I could view it as a cooldown that I use more frequently, even though it has a large cooldown like 12 minutes. Another side note is that right now I have noticed that Cancel Aura for Levitate, Slowfall, and Spirit of Redemption are not working properly, and normally that sounds like a really small thing to complain about, but I actually use that Cancel Aura very often, so it's actually kind of agitating for me that they're not working because I have to right-click them off, And right clicking, there's always a risk of your buffs shifting around and then you right clicking the wrong thing off. So I really don't like that. And plus, right clicking it off is slower as well. So there are so many times where my Spirit of Redemption goes off and I want to cancel it immediately. Using a keybind for that is much faster than right clicking, but since it's not working right now, I can't do that. And also, it's just strange to me because right now Disperse Cancel Aura works properly, but those other three that I mentioned do not. So, so many things wrong right now that I wish could be fixed. Yeah, that is my analysis of what Holy is like right now. I do think a lot of it is similar to what I mentioned previously in my last video for Holy that I did way back, but maybe there's a little bit of difference for rows like 100. Alrighty, let's see how this run goes.